basically the American State Department utilizes Turkey as as an outsourcer, a subcontractor that is one step removed from the United States of America. So they get to do this kind of stuff like with direct involvement, for example.
Their descent on Aleppo has been blistering in its speed, taking the Syrian regime and the world by surprise. Opposition fighters now control much of the city, and they're vowing to take the capital, Damascus.
What is that? What's that patch? Huh. I don't know. I don't know what that patch. Maybe it's Red Scare. Y'all, it could be the Red Scare. They could be Red Scare listeners. They could be fans of Red Scare, the podcast, honestly. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't speak Arabic. I can't read Arabic. It just like looked weird to me. I've only seen like patches like that on guys that don't have the best opinions, you know?
Damascus next.
Stop doing purity spirals. I think it's kind of funny to see American and Western media literally look at these guys going Allahu Akbar, who like openly have supported, but also on top of that, like engaged in what they consider to be global jihad. And I don't mean like jihad as in normal struggle. I mean like global jihad in the way that Americans presented. It's these guys that have done that and want that. And it's kind of funny that these are the good guys, the guys that actually have done that, and the guys that don't want to do that at all. Those are the guys that want to do the global jihad.
So far, they've met little resistance, skidding cars in one of the main plazas in celebration. And in the advance...
Most of the rebels aren't ISIS, though. That's not what I said. I never said the rebels are ISIS. I just said that across the board, when people talk about the Syrian rebels, like, it's identical to the Mujahideen structure, okay, in Afghanistan, in the lead up to the Afghan Civil War, in the lead up to the USSR intervention. This is exactly what happened, okay? That's what you said. No, I didn't say that. I actually said there are secular rebel forces as well. And I also, but a lot of the larger motion, a lot of the larger movements are coming from the Turkish-backed, Turkish-backed fundamentalist former ISIS and former al-Qaeda militants in the area.
Symbols and statues of the Assad dictatorship are not being spared, toppled wherever they once stood.
Yes, for the record, in the interest of fairness, they are not currently al-Qaeda. HDS is not currently al-Qaeda. It's just led by a man named Jelani, who is formerly al-Qaeda. They officially cut ties with al-Qaeda, but there's a lot of cross-pollination.
War was dormant, at a stalemate, but not anymore. Aleppo is a huge prize for the rebels, as it was a major center of power for the regime.
To see the entire city fall in 24...
They have purged most al-Qaeda members as well. I don't think I would go that far. Their leader has purged al-Qaeda members from HTS. They're trying to pull moderate for unity. I don't think I would go that far. Their leader is also former al-Qaeda, and I don't think that they have reformed or anything. I think that Jelani has said he no longer wants to do global jihad. He was mistaken. He does not want to fight the West. And I think the reason why he says that is because he's getting funded by the Turkish government. He's getting help from the Turkish government, a NATO ally. And that is a way for the American government to not directly fund former al-Qaeda militants that they still consider to be on the terror watch list, but it's actually a cutout operation. That's why NATO is very important. That's how NATO works. You get your NATO ally to do the dirty work for you that you would normally want to do directly, but you can't do it directly because then it's like, whoa, what about the rule-based international order? Like, what's going on? It's kind of weird. Why are you giving these guys direct funding and money and weapons and training? I don't really get it. And then they can say plausible deniability. We're not actually directly funding them. It's actually Turkey that's directly funding them. At the same time, Turkey is like looking at all these fucking Salafist militias and going, great, let's train them. Okay, let's give them weapons. some of the other groups that fight with one another from time to time in the power vacuum also end up fucking attacking Turkey as well. So it's a little bit more complicated than just these guys hate these guys. They never actually fucking align with one another on anything. That's why I gave you the example of the Kurdish militia forces that are also backed by and offered logistical support, but like literally they are the American militias on the ground, okay? The Kurdish militias are American forces on the fucking ground, basically. They were most successfully utilized against ISIS in the region. That is before we even talk about like ISIS's inception. There's a lot of American intervention and involvement in ISIS's inception as well, but that's besides the point at this, you know, in this analysis that has no, you know, that's unimportant. Anyway, let's continue.
4 hours, as we did yesterday.
The Kurds are not backed by anyone. That's completely untrue. The Kurds were originally backed by America, but once again, the United States of America loves to give Kurdish militias weapons and training and then literally leave them out to die in the hands of the Turkish government very quickly after they're done using them. So you're wrong on that front as well. Not only are you wrong, I have literally had someone who went and fought in Rojava on this fucking broadcast, a good friend of mine. Kurdish people, Kurdish militias in the region are America's greatest weapon. They're a stateless people. It's understandable. They have an understandable desire for having a state of their own, 35 million in diaspora. Americans love going to them and going, hey, you guys have reasonable demands. You want to make a state for yourself? Well, guess what? We're going to offer you weapons. We're going to give you training. Go fucking, and then we're going to sick you on whoever the fuck we want to destabilize the area a little bit, or even use you as a group that will engage in a cleanup job to take care of our former problems with ISIS, for example. And then once we're done, you're done. That's usually how it goes with the American involvement with the Kurds.
Today is, I mean, beyond dramatic. It's like an earthquake in the scale of the last 13, 14 years of the Syrian crisis.
It is uncertain when this lightning attack, it started just a few days ago, with the rebels quickly moving through the countryside. The people here can't believe how suddenly it's changed.
We suffered greatly in the refugee camp, complaining to God. But when I returned yesterday and today to the village and found it liberating...
Wait, people want to cancel me for what Jank said about trans people? That's funny. Good luck.
It was an indescribable joy.
The landscape here has been pummeled by artillery with smoke and the sound of shelling echoing across the horizon. The opposition, backed by Turkey and led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, say the offence has been launched to stop government airstrikes on its territory in northwest Syria.
We in the Military Operations Department stand up to our responsibilities to put an end to the transgressions of this criminal regime and protect our people.
The attack shows the weakness of President Assad's regime.
Bro, that's the quickest way. That is the quickest way to get a fucking ankle injury, okay? How are you not going to fucking zip it up all the way, dog? You're going to break an ankle. 100%.
The attack shows the weakness of President Assad's regime as its allies fight in other wars, with Russia bogged down in Ukraine and Iran and its proxies weakened in the conflict with Israel. Syria's dictator has been left exposed. Syrian and Russian jets are now launching heavy counterstrikes. This is the aftermath of an assault on central Aleppo. The ground is covered with blood. For the last few days, opposition fighters have been virtually unopposed. But President Assad's government says it's temporary and is vowing to push them back.
These fighters have reignited Syria's civil war. A loose coalition of jihadist and secular rebels whose lightning advance poses the biggest challenge to President Assad in many years. Their prize, Aleppo, Syria's second biggest city, retaken by the government in 2016 and now back in opposition hands. Last night they tore down a statue of Hafez Assad, founder of the ruling dynasty. His son and successor Bashar has used chemical weapons against his own people. And this victory comes after almost 14 years of fighting, with hundreds of thousands killed and millions of refugees.
It's also kind of funny because, like, on the one hand, like, Turks fucking hate the Syrian refugees. Like, they fucking hate all of the Syrian refugees, and they automatically are like, oh, if you're a refugee from Syria, like, you're a fucking Islamist fundamentalist, you're a Sharia guy, you know, you're Mr. Sharia, okay, and you came to tarnish my secular nation of Turkey. But then also at the same time, they celebrate the rebel groups that Turkey funds and trains. Very interesting predicament.
I am back in Aleppo for the first time in 8 years, says this fighter. 8 years of the Assad family and their criminal machine. This was a statue of the president's brother. A rerun of the Arab Spring by the looks of it. But jihadists are once again in the vanguard here, some of them previously affiliated with al-Qaeda. Their leader is widely designated as a terrorist, but to many living in these battlegrounds, he's no worse an option than President Assad.
We enter Aleppo as liberators, God willing, to end the oppression.
Interesting how some Syrian anti-government militants mix Islamist slogans with pan-Turkish symbols like the Grey Wolves flag, signaling Turkish influence. Erdogan prioritizes pressuring Assad on normalization, refugees, and countering Kurds over direct confrontation with Iran. Yeah, so that's the other part of this, is that there's a lot of Turkic brigades involved in this as well. So there's also, dude, it's when you, anything that Turkey is involved in is going to be literally incomprehensible, okay? Anything that Turkey is involved in is going to be in-fucking-comprehensible. Because on the one hand, Turkey is normalizing relations with China and is engaging in economic development with both China and Russia. Okay, Turkey has economic partnerships with Russia and economic partnerships with China. On the other hand, some of the Turkic brigades that they have actually, that they've actually funded and actually offered logistical support to and actually trained are literally the Uyghurs in Xinjiang that the Chinese government declares separatist Islamist fundamentalists that must be violently purged. So, and also on the other side, some of the groups that they're funding and training that are involved in the opposition to Assad are directly fighting against Russian interests in the region too. So Turkey, while it is a NATO ally, and basically the American State Department utilizes Turkey as as an outsourcer, a subcontractor that is one step removed from the United States of America, so they get to do this kind of stuff, like with direct involvement, for example. They're still working at the behest of the United States' interests in the region. It is truly fucked on every angle.
Of the people, advise all our brothers not to enter people's homes. It is essential that there are no violations.
The Syrian government says its army has made a tactical retreat.
What is this? Russia, Ukraine is losing ground. The European continent is divided. America is preoccupied with domestic issues. All of our historic enemies are out of the picture. War Monitor says Russia stabbed in the back by Turkey. Who would have thought? Dude, it's a very weird situation because, like I said, it's a weird situation because Turkey once again is not only at the table but is directly the table. Okay? Yeah, this is the least nationalist Turkish man. Yeah.
Retreat to prepare a counterattack, but it's clearly abandoned both weapons and ammunition in a hurry. And Iran's pledge.
Yeah. I'm wondering how a lot of people who are my naysayers because of my anti-NATO position, I wonder how they're going to fucking square the circle, you know what I mean? I really do feel bad for them because they have to assume this weird stance now where they're like, no, actually, the fucking former Al-Qaeda ISIS rebel groups that Turkey is funding are the good guys in this process. And Hassan is critical of Turkey's involvement in this, but that goes against my previous programming that I said Hassan is unconditionally pro-Turkey.
Of military support could mean little when both the regime and its affiliate Hezbollah are still reeling from airstrikes launched by Israel. Though Assad also has the Russians on his side, and their jets have now bombed Aleppo for the first time in 8 years. Devastating Russian firepower drove the rebels out in 2016, and any distraction caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine may prove short-lived. Some of these rebels are backed by Turkey, which says it wants to protect Syrian civilians from the Assad regime. But nobody really controls these groups, and they're rapidly advancing.
Yo, dude, it's evil Brace. Oh no, there are Brace Beldens. There are Brace Beldens all around for those with eyes to see.
Through small towns and villages towards the city of Hama, where an earlier uprising against Assad was brutally suppressed. This afternoon they captured Aleppo's airport, thumbing their noses at President Assad pictured above the main door. Syria's leader is thought to be visiting Moscow.
The HTS has stated they don't support Gaza, etc. Wow, I'm shocked. Wow, that's really interesting. One must ask the question why so many of these Salafist groups who are supposed to be the Islamist fundamentalists that are quite literally presented as the Hamas alternative by Western media seemingly always find themselves not at odds with Israel, but directly in coordination with Israel. Yeah, they're against Israel's enemies. Okay. This doesn't mean that the Assad government has offered like a tremendous amount of support to Hamas, by the way. They have not. Or historically, they've done more, I think. But in the last couple of decades, especially since the civil war and Hamas's initial support for some of these groups that were rising up against Assad, made Assad go, "Oh, you guys are fucking fake friends."
Where he's no doubt urging Vladimir Putin to come to his assistance. The rebels also filmed themselves releasing jubilant prisoners from one of Aleppo's jails, in what is an astonishing revival of Syria's long-running revolution. In the last few days, these fighters have ended the last 8 years of government rule here, forcing one of the world's most repressive regimes into retreat. That regime is responding predictably tonight by opening fire on protesters in Daraa.
It is pretty crazy that they're like, it is pretty crazy that the coverage of of former ISIS and al-Qaeda militants is like so positive, you know?
Province. Though remarkably, the city of Hama now seems to have fallen to the rebels without much of a fight. And there are even reports of clashes in Damascus, the capital itself.
Wait, did you say the Syrian rebels were ISIS fighters? Oh my God. Oh God, I can't wait for that American Enterprise Institute twink to come after me to be like, yeah, these former Al-Qaeda and ISIS, some of the Syrian rebels, and it's not just my statement, it is just objective fact, also reiterated by fucking Channel 4, are yes, former Al-Qaeda and former ISIS militants. Hey, if you like this video, please subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.